Hey, everybody, it's Ron Johnson, and this is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. I was right. The Eagles beat the Chiefs. We'll talk about that. Is Patrick Mahomes the GOAT? Can Jalen Hurts ever be considered the GOAT? And we got Jasper Brinkley joining us on the Hanging Ron Johnson segment. Former Viking, now player personnel director, the go-between guy between the head coach and the players. He's got a lot of stories for us. Harrison Smith, Percy Harvin fight? Tune in next for that.
Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcasts. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. Now the Ron Johnson Show. On the field, in the broadcast booth, Ron Johnson is Minnesota sports. He's played with them, hung out with them, and grown up with all the big names in Minnesota sports. They're hanging out with Ron Johnson. It's the Ron Johnson Show on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcast. And it starts now.
Hey, everybody, it's Ron Johnson, and it's a beautiful Tuesday. Why? Because there's no snow. It's cold, yes, in Minnesota, but wherever you're listening from, I hope it's a little bit warmer. But I'm Ron Johnson. This is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcast Network, and my co-host is Sam Ekstrom, my producer, the guy that does everything. Sam Ekstrom, he's going to be joining me in a minute, but I want everybody to know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. People, Lakers, right? Come on now. Timberwolves, new owners. Come on. It's got to be an easy $5 bet out there. Put that $5 in there. You get $150 in bonus bets, and now you're playing with house money. But as we bring up what's coming up next in this show, we're going to talk about the Super Bowl. We got the Daily Three, of course. Kevin O'Connell wins Coach of the Year. Are the Timberwolves going to bounce back all of a sudden now and go back to being a playoff team because they were stressed out? And are we worried about the Timberwolves, though? Again, these losses are starting to mount up. But I got to bring my co-host to the show, Sam Ekstrom. We're going to talk about Jasper Brinkley a little bit later. Sam, he's got some great stories. And when I was talking to Jasper at the Vikings game, that was the reason why I was like, let's get you on here at some point. Yes, we're going to do dinner. We're going to do something. But I'm like, you know what? Let me get you on the show because I know there. And I didn't know it was coming, Sam. I didn't know had you ever heard that story about Percy Harvin?
No, that was new and interesting. And I'm excited to share that on social. And see if we can get some reaction. That was great.
Yeah, and and that's
behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's what men do though. Like that was a perfect way to handle it. Harrison Smith was letting you know I'm not no punk. Percy Harvin was probably like I'm not no punk. And just two men figuring it out, and they figured it out. So we're great teammates after that. But that kind of solidified like okay, this Harrison Smith guy got a little something to him. So make sure you guys check that out next in the Hanging Ron Johnson segment when Jasper Brinkley joins us. But Sam, Super Bowl reaction, man. Like right out the gate, it was boring. It was because it was so dominant. Like it was like an absolute masterclass. And I literally thought it was gonna be 40-0. I was like, this is about to be a 40 ball. This is gonna be 40-0 or 48-0. The Chiefs, we know there were some backups in the game for the Eagles and getting some guys some Super Bowl chances to tell their family they played in the Super Bowl. And, that's also awesome, man, for Nick Sirianni to be able to get backups in because a lot of coaches would be scared to do that against the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Because if you think about it, Sam, after that last score, they were only down 2 scores. And Patrick Mahomes put it perfectly on the podium. He said, you know what, if I don't throw those 2 picks, we don't give up 14 points. And we're in this game. It's probably a 2-point game. And they probably wouldn't have had to go for 2. So then they would have had, maybe a field goal extra point, and then a 2-point conversion. And they're right there in the game. And I think that's the biggest key. And they'd be right there, 1 score down. Or if they just go field goal, again, 1 score down. That's not something you want to be dealing with against Patrick Mahomes. But it was kind of cool for Sirianni to be able to get those backups in the game because that's going to be memories for those guys for years to be able to go tell their families. Funny story though, I didn't realize this. What Vikings? I saw somebody tweet this. Like one of the Vikings players tweeted, like, put some respect on my boy's name. He's a Super Bowl champion. Is it Lewis Cine? Is Lewis Cine on the Eagles?
Lewis Cine was practice squad. I don't think he was in the game. And then there was another former Vikings
Was it Nick Muse?
Fullback. Oh, Nick Muse and Kari Blasingame is an
Kari
old Vikings
Blasingame.
fullback who spent training camp with the Vikings. So a few former Vikings connections, but no, Nick Muse was in like a beer chugging contest with Saquon Barkley. That was where Muse went viral.
And so when you look at that, and I don't know if practice squad guys get rings. I'm pretty sure they would. I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't. Like the coaches get it, the front office gets it. I would think the practice squad gets. So Louis Cine gets him a Super Bowl ring. Like that's, again, people can say whatever they want. And I do know some guys that didn't do much for a team but got a Super Bowl ring. And they're using that to their advantage now. Like, I'm not sure how much it's elevated their speaking, but I know some guys that speak at schools and they speak about being a champion because they were on a championship team. Louis Cine has now been on a championship Super Bowl winning team. So if we had to go back and say the Vikings draft Louis Cine will win a Super Bowl, I think everybody would have probably just assumed it was the Vikings. Like, nobody would assume Louis Cine goes off and wins the Super Bowls. Or after we saw what happened to Louis Cine, you could have said, I bet you Louis Cine wins the Super Bowl one day. People are like, hell no. There's no chance. This guy might not even be in the league. And you know what? He's on the practice squad. He's going to work his way in. I think this is a guy that can be a highly, highly active special teams guy at some point because he's not afraid to tackle. I just think defensively from college to the NFL, there was something fundamentally mentally missing, like whether it was the broken leg, whether it's, whatever it is, something's missing. And I hope Louis Cine finds it because he's a great guy. We had him on the show when he first got drafted. And so I'm rooting for him. But Sam, that was my reaction, man. It was kind of boring. Like, it was like, I love the big plays. I was expecting a big Saquon Barkley run. That never happened. Jalen Hurts kind of took over the show. The tush push showed its face again, reared his ugly head. The Chiefs didn't do anything crazy. And then Chris Jones gets hurt. And then at that point, you kind of like, all right, it's over. And then I saw this on NBC, our partner Peacock with Dan Patrick. He said, was this the fastest Gatorade bath in Super Bowl history? Like, was this the early? And I don't know. I never I had to get out the car and went to I had work stuff to do. So I wasn't able to keep listening. But I wonder, like, if Fritzy ever found the answer to that. Like, what was the soonest a Gatorade bath has ever happened in Super Bowl?
Before the 2-minute warning at 3 minutes
Correct.
to go, I think.
Yep. It was like 2:52, which seems a little premature, but hey, when you got that big of a lead, why not? Like, they could have probably done it at the start of the fourth quarter and he would have probably been pissed, but he could have done it at the start of the fourth quarter. Be like, hey, look, let's just get coach now. Let's make history. Let's go viral and say, man, this game is over. We're Super Bowl champions. But it was funny to see AJ Brown and Nick Sirianni get into it, and then him go score a touchdown, and then him go sit down with his book because he had a book guy. There's a guy that keeps his book for him. And then Nick Sirianni comes over, and I don't know if he says something about the book, but they're joking around. And so people are like thinking like, man, what's up? I just think that's the Eagles. I think Nick Sirianni is a hothead. I think that team is just built on just like absolute chaos sometimes, and they feed off that. And AJ Brown probably was more pissed off that they didn't throw him the ball. Like, look, man, I'm one-on-one. Stop doing this crap you're doing. And Nick Sirianni's like, oh, you want the ball? You better catch this. And then he does it. And then you see him come over like, I told you, so I love that in Nick Sirianni because, one, super petty. So he's like, look, oh, you going to yell at me about not getting the ball? Okay, let's go do it. Go. It's for you. Go do it. And he actually wins on the corner route and gets the touchdown. So if he had dropped it or if it wasn't open, then Nick Sirianni probably would come back and say, I told you. That's why I'm not doing that, because they're doing this, So it's a fiery team. But yeah, I do wonder, has anybody ever gotten a Gatorade bath that early before the 2 minute? Because usually the 2-minute warning is like, okay, we can kneel on this thing. Or that team is trying to make a last-ditch effort, but there's no way they can score 2 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns within 2 minutes. So I don't know.
We got to check Pete Carroll's Gatorade dump against the Broncos in the 48
that was a blowout.
43-8 game. Yeah, I wonder when he got the dunk. But there was enough time where I think the Eagles gave the ball back to the Chiefs and they scored a touchdown. And meanwhile, Sirianni's just soaking wet in pink Gatorade or yellow Gatorade, whatever it was.
Yeah. So somebody said green on the telecast because that's a prop bet. I think that was just yellow because it is lemon lime. Yeah, it's lemon lime. So there was so much wrong with that. I don't know. And on the Super Bowl broadcast, quick, Sam, what did you think about the broadcast?
Man, I couldn't hear, honestly. Too much noise in my watching area. So
okay.
I got nothing for you there. It was what did you think of Brady? Did you get a
so
good,
he wasn't bad, but I was kind of, so there was a lot of silence, which is fine, because there's certain things he can and can't say. He's very careful of that. He doesn't want to get in trouble. I was more so concerned with like the so many missed calls by the broadcast. Like, so the dunk, on the rim after the strip sack fumble, and Patrick Mahomes gets hit in the face, and the announcer, and it's not Brady, it's the announcer, the play-by-play guy. He's like, "Oh, looks like the flag is for hitting the face, but looks like the refs are going to say the ball was out of his hand, so it's not a hands to the face on the quarterback. It's just a 15-yard penalty on the kickoff." And I'm like, and he said, "What do you think, Mike Pereira?" Mike Pereira is like, they're calling that because he touched the goalpost." And then just like I'm not even about to explain this to y'all. Like, why would you even think there's a flag that could not be like imposed if it's a hands to the face because he doesn't have the ball in his hand? Like, just, it was just like the amount of reach they were trying to put on the onus of like, oh, these refs are just letting them beat up Patrick Mahomes. Like, because it was like a complete role reversal of calls. Like, it felt like the Chiefs and maybe the Eagles just were super hyper focused of like, don't do anything because they're going to give him a flag at any chance they get. And so it seemed like the Eagles did a great job of not drawing penalties or not getting penalties. And yeah, it was that one. And then it was another play. I can't remember what happened. And again, the guy said something and Brady kind of said something. And then Mike Pereira's like, or somebody else came back in and said, no, that wasn't it. That it was this, and this, like just wrong, just 100% wrong, which I'm fine with. But I just feel like whether it was the lack of preparation, whether it was the game was getting boring, so they were getting bored too. Because I've been in the booth. I've been in the booth a bunch of times. And, did a whole Big Ten season. I did a couple Mountain West games during COVID. And so I know how it gets. Like, it does get boring when the game is boring. Like, I have not been a part of, like, I've had some great games I called that it went down to the wire. I got to call a Gophers Illinois game for homecoming. So I've had some good games, but I have had some like non-conference games where it's like, oh, okay, what's all right? Like, come on, like, can we move on to the next thing? And I'm trying to find like storylines. Is anybody's cousin at the game, or is there a celebrity they're married to? Nothing. So I do understand that, but it was just, to me, Sam, it wasn't. And I'm glad we didn't have Romo. I couldn't deal with Romo in this game. Like, Romo would have been, I don't know what would have happened. He would have been predicting way too much, and it would have been wrong. But I don't know, like Greg Olsen. Like, I mean, nothing against like Brady. I just feel like you get more out of Greg Olsen because he can say whatever he wants. Brady is kind of handcuffed with what he's allowed to say. But when you think about the game, though, Sam, did you see it going this way? Because I asked Jasper Brinkley this question as well. Did you see the Eagles just? I mean, I knew the Eagles would win, but did you see them dominating like this?
Yeah, I was leaning Eagles like you. We both said we liked the Eagles. The stuff that I had going at FanDuel, that was pretty heavy on the Eagles. So I like the angle. I don't know if anyone could have expected a 40-6 lead, right? You don't expect that. I don't know if we've dug into the historical nature of that deficit. Has Patrick Mahomes ever trailed by 34 points in a football game?
I don't know. They were bringing that up, and I don't know.
Patrick Mahomes lost by, I want to say, 22 in his last Super Bowl loss to Brady, 31-9, I think the score was. I don't know if he's ever had a regular season game go that way. I mean, and to be down by 34, I'm guessing that's the biggest deficit of his career. He was legitimately terrible, Ron. Not only the picks, but some other really bad throws. He was flustered by four-man pressure and very un-Mahomes-like. Didn't seem to have a way to get out of it. Credit the Eagles with their rush plan. They were unbelievable. But I've never seen Mahomes that flustered. Very uncharacteristic.
And what's his Vic Fangio? Yeah. Yep, you're right.
Yeah, Fangio ran a great scheme. All of the karma from the year of the Chiefs kind of winning ridiculous games, it all came crashing down all at once. So, bummer of a game. I thought it was the worst Super Bowl in like 10 years because it was such a blowout.
Not the worst. It can't be the worst.
The worst. I don't know. I'd rather have a low-scoring close game than a high-scoring blowout. That's just me. I want to have a good fourth quarter and not have it be over at half. Like Kendrick Lamar, like that. I'm like, oh, the game's over. Kendrick Lamar's done. Oh, they have another half to play. Oh,
right.
Okay.
It did feel that way. But here's the thing, though. The other one you talked about, the Seahawks Broncos, that one was boring too, though. That one got bad fast.
That's the next worst, I think.
Yeah, that one got bad fast because Peyton Manning had some bad throws. Like, the crazy thing though is they said the Super Bowl history, the team that throws, did you see that one? Any team that throws a pick six has lost 12-1, except There's one team. So there's 13 times has happened where there's been a pick six in the Super Bowl. The team that gets the pick six is 12-1. Do you know the team that got a pick six that still didn't win?
All right, give me a second. Can you give me just like a range of years, like which decade?
I don't even know what decade that was. I think that was in the 2010 to 2020.
Okay.
Grouping.
So
I think it was.
Yep. So we would have had a Giants Super Bowl. We would have had the 28-3 comeback. I don't think it happened there. Or maybe it did. Did Brady throw one?
Yep.
Did Brady throw one in the 28-3 game? Yep. That's right.
So that's the one. And so it's so funny that they bought that up. Of course, Brady's in the booth. They were waiting for that one. They had that one loaded. Like, we gotta throw this out there that Brady was the only team to defy history. Because Patrick Mahomes was going to defy history if he had won his third, and no quarterback ever. Brady never could three-peat. And then they finally got their Bradyism out there. Like, there was only one, pick six and you win the game 12-1. Do you know the team that didn't do it? And Brady's like, me? Like, come on, dude. You've been waiting for this moment. That was your one shining moment of the broadcast to talk about your Super Bowl versus Matt Ryan. Because you already brought up the week before your Eagles one where you didn't catch the ball that Nick Foles did. But yeah, that was the one. It was the Brady interception return for a touchdown, 28-3, and then they still came back somehow and won. And I think that was the other thing people were thinking, like, is Patrick Mahomes about to outdo Brady's comeback? Because Brady had the 28-3. Can Patrick Mahomes have a big comeback and set the world on fire and show Brady I'm better than you? No, he did. And you're right, he had a bad game, Sam. And this is the thing. I can't 100% put it on him. I can't. I blame the Chiefs. I do. Because the fact that you came in this game and after you noticed they're only rushing 4 and you didn't think to run the ball, like not at first, maybe at first, let's go. Okay, crap, they're getting after us. When the game is still in hand, like 14 or 10, was it 10-0? I think is what it was.
10-0 before the pick six. Yeah.
Run the ball. Like 10-0. Run the ball. Like Sandra Bullock should have been calling Andy Reid. Run the dang ball. Andy, what are you doing? Like, run. And who's the OC for them now? Matt Nagy?
Is it Nagy?
I think Nagy is. And so, again, I'm not hating on Nagy because he did a horrible job for the Bears, but he got back to a Super Bowl with the Chiefs. But I think you put any offensive coordinator with Andy Reid and they're going to win the Super Bowl, or they're going to go to the Super Bowl. And of course, what's going to happen, which is going to be annoying, is in a couple years, Matt Nagy probably gets a chance to be a head coach, and Eric Bieniemy never did. I'll never understand that one. And Eric Bieniemy took the wrong path, like going to the Commanders, horrible decision, then going to college, even worse decision, and now he's struggling, to get back to the NFL. It was a bad chess move, and he's not checkmate. But he's heavily in check. Like he's kind of stuck right now because those NFL jobs don't open up easily. And just wait it out. Like, you're making millions of dollars to win Super Bowls with Patrick Mahomes. Just wait. Wait for Andy Reid to die. Just wait. Like, it's comfortable. You're never going to get fired. Just wait. Like, who's not going to take – if you told me you can have $2 million, if you gave me $1 million – and I don't have to recruit. I don't have to go find college players and high school kids. I don't have to worry about if this kid's out late drinking. I just have to coach and go home. Coach and go home. I'm going to do that forever. And if the head coach gets fired, I probably become the interim. Like, just wait. I don't know why Eric Bieniemy did that, but this is not about Eric Bieniemy. This is about the Chiefs getting their doors blown off. This is about Nick Sirianni and his dominance. But Sam, we got to get to Jasper Brinkley. So we'll do that after a word from our sponsors.
We are brought to you today by FanDuel. Sadly, the football season is over, but the NBA is getting in full swing. Luka Doncic debuted for the Lakers last night. Timberwolves have a couple big matchups this week for the All-Star break, and you can check it all out at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You can place live bets during the game, get the future bets going, predict the NBA finals champion. Whether it's the opening tip-off or fourth quarter comebacks, all the action at FanDuel, as well as their same-game parlays where you can stack outcomes on top of each other, put together a winning ticket. Right now, FanDuel customers that are new can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to join today or check out the easy-to-use FanDuel Sportsbook app. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
It's time for the Hanging Ron Johnson segment. I love these because when you get former Vikings, but former NFL players, but then a guy you connect with. So you guys know me, like when it came down to Leo Kano and kwesi-adofo-mensah, there's always a connection. And so Jasper Brinkley is going to join me in the Hanging Ron Johnson segment. Jasper and I, so the reason I figured out that I knew him, my wife reaches out and says, hey, a friend of mine from the Olympics reached out to me, said her husband is coming back to Minnesota to work. And, and I'm like, all right, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. And, you just never know who the person's going to be. Right. And then she's like, yeah, his name is Jasper. And I'm like, yeah, I know that name. I know we've crossed paths when I did some early work for the Vikings. And then I get a chance to meet Jasper on the sideline and, seems like a great guy. And right away, I'm like, you know what? I gotta reach out to him at some point. It took a whole season. Yeah. We're going to have to do dinner. But I got Jasper Brinkley joining me, former Minnesota Viking, former draft pick, went to the University of South Carolina, linebacker. And Jasper, first, man, I want to just get your take on the Super Bowl because that's the first thing in everybody's mind right now. With the Super Bowl, you're a defensive guy, and I picked the Eagles, so I'm glad it worked out the way it did. But did you see that type of defensive dominance happening to Patrick Mahomes? Like, did you ever envision that?
I knew it was a possibility, Ron, but I didn't think it was going to go like that. Obviously, because you have Patrick on the other side of the ball, and with him, he's to me is the ultimate improviser at that position, man. And just to see how Philly dismantled Kansas City's offensive line, and man, that was. Me personally, I love to see that. Personally, as a defensive guy, I really like that. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I think you and about half, maybe 90% of the world were happy to see that outcome. And then you got the 10% that wanted both teams to lose, and then you got like maybe that little 1% pocket that was praying that Taylor Swift somehow would have a great night, and it didn't work out for her. Like she didn't get engaged. Travis Kelce's plans were possibly ruined. I don't think this is his last game. But you never know. Like he's made a ton of money. Him and his brother have a huge podcast network now. Right. And so when you're thinking about going through training camp, getting your body beat up, there's just things that make you want to walk away. And so looking at another guy, you see this guy daily, Harrison Smith. We got a chance to talk to Robert Griffith, former Minnesota Viking, played DB 13 years, safety for Minnesota Vikings and various teams. He was in the same situation that Harrison Smith's in. It was deciding to come back or retire. Right. And when he talked about Harrison Smith, he said, man, you know what? Like when Brian Flores is saying, look, you don't have to practice as much. We're going to get you off the field as much as we need to. We just need you to be a captain on this team. When you put yourself in that mindset of a guy like Harrison Smith, man, like what is it that could make him want to come back when you think about like he's made his money? Like he could retire. He has a wife that's pregnant, has a kid already. But what could, because you see these guys tick, you see their mental side, their physical side, their emotional side. What could make him want to come back?
Number one, I think it'll be his relationship with Flo. Like they have a outstanding relationship. It's almost like having Flo on the field as a player with Harrison. They're constantly in contact and communication with certain adjustments. If you ever have a chance to see him on the sideline, you can see that. I think that's, man, probably the best thing to have as a defensive coordinator, to have a player like that. Yeah. And not only that, just a testament to Harry, man. Harry's a great captain. A lot of the younger guys look up to him. They see how he take care of his body, how he's in early watching, breaking down film, and he's staying those extra hours taking care of his body. A lot of the guys emulate that. So, to have a guy like Harry, great locker room guy. He's been there. He's done that. I even think about to the days when he first came in as a rookie when I was here. Yeah. And him and Percy Harvin had a run-in the locker room. I gained so much respect for him then, man. I knew he was going to be a difference maker. So, but Harry is great. He's a great guy. I want to see him play forever. I hope he can play until he wants to. So we love him here.
And when you talk about, like, I got to ask that question in, because I've seen some Percy Harvin interviews. I've seen him talk about how high he played when he played because of the migraines and the other stuff, which weed is legal, people. There's nothing wrong with it. But what was this run in? Like him and Harrison Smith, like what was the brouhaha? Because I've seen that Xavier Rhodes, Stephon Diggs brouhaha, and we know as a receiver, DBs, man, they could be buttholes sometimes. And so we know how one-on-ones get. I talked to Stephon after. I talked to Xavier after. He's like, man, you know how it goes in one-on-ones, man. You know, I'm not going to let him little boy me. He's not going to let me little boy him, blah, blah. They dapped it up later in the locker room. They was good to go. But what was this Percy Harvin, Harrison Smith?
It was one of those, long practices. Percy probably felt Harry, went a little extra. But, Harry's a young guy coming in, got to make a name for himself. And he did it that day at practice. And, we was in the locker room and, Harry and Percy, they kind of got nose to nose. And Percy asked Harry, was it a problem? And Harry said, no, it's not a problem, but it can be one. And from that point on, I was like, oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
Okay. He got a little different side to Harry. Okay, I like that. Yeah, because Harrison Smith, man, the guy I know. We see Hitman, blah blah. But the story I always tell people that showed me his humanity side of it, man. My daughter was doing this bracelet sale for charity, giving money back to the city of Minneapolis and Black-owned businesses that had been destroyed during some of the stuff going on downtown.
Right.
And Harrison Smith reached out to me. He's like, hey man, I want to come bring some money for this deal and buy some bracelets and give them out to kids and stuff. And I'm like, cool, like, just let me know, like, send somebody, whatever. Yeah. All of a sudden, like, I get another text, like, yo, what's your address? I'm like, what? So I'm like, yeah, here's my address. I'm not, how it is. You don't think nothing of it. Yeah. Like 2 hours later, Tesla pulls up. I'm like, wait a minute, what? And Harrison gets out. And not only does he just come, like, because a lot of people say, oh, he just dropped by. Man, he hung out for a while with the kids, played football with the little boys in the neighborhood. Signed some autographs for kids that had jerseys at home, signed footballs if people wanted to go get it. I told my neighbors, respect his privacy too. I'm like, hey, don't go texting your cousins and stuff saying Harrison Smith is on our street, come over. But it was a cool deal where, we didn't publicize it. We didn't want a bunch of people trying to show up to our neighborhood that know us or know where we live. But it was cool that he did that. And to this day, like every time we chop it up, that's the one thing I tell him, like, man, I'm always going to have a ton of respect for Harrison Smith.
Right.
Because, there's so many people. And Chad Greenwood, the same thing. Him and his wife reached out to us. And CJ Ham invited us over to his house to do it at his house. And so, there's some guys that you always will kind of have that relationship with. Like, man, same with Adam Thielen. He reached out and, we went over to his house and did some stuff. So it's guys like that, man, that go the extra mile. Like I'm always thankful for the little stuff because I'm like, hey, appreciate it. Appreciate this. Appreciate the tickets, whatever. But it's the extra mile stuff, man, because for me, I don't care, but it's my kids. Like when they can look back. And my daughter, she was always a Justin Jefferson fan. And then that day, she was like, Dad, I want to get a Harrison Smith jersey. And of course, Harry signed it for her. And, so she kind of had that, little relationship. She's still a Stephon Diggs fan. I can never change that. But and Justin Jefferson too. But she, she loves Harrison Smith. And then she always asks me too. She's like, yeah, that guy's house went over. What is a fullback? And I keep trying to explain to her what a fullback does because it's kind of getting like obsolete, like it's not, you don't see that. And speaking of that said fullback, CJ Ham, Walter Payton Man of the Year. He's a guy that or is under your tutelage. And for that, before I jump into that, man, explain people to your role with the Minnesota Vikings right now.
So I'm the director of player engagement.
Okay.
My role is broad, right? So I always try to simplify it and be like, hey, I'm a life skills guy. I'm the guy that handles crisis management, on the field, off the field engagement. So at times I could be the guy getting that 2 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m. in the morning phone call.
Yep.
Going in, trying to handle a situation, crisis, and just being able to navigate it. I'm the buffer between the head coach and the players.
Yep.
And it's not only me. I have a team here. Les Pico still is here.
Yep.
I have Arkeem Bird is here as well with me. We just finished our first year, and also we work with Quinn Jersevich as well.
Yep.
With
no Quinn.
So, and we got a team here, and from ownership all the way down to the janitors, man. This organization has been great. we really care. We really care about our players, and anything that we feel that can help our players succeed and just cultivate a great environment for our players to be able to succeed, we believe in it, and we're going to get it done.
And when you look at CJ Ham, Walter Payton Man of the Year, what kind of guy? Because again, like, you're a life skills guy, and I'm pretty sure he's a guy you're not going to get that 2 a.m., 3 a.m. phone call. Right. What kind of mentor and leader is he? Because he doesn't have the same all the time on the field, like he can't be like the quarterback, when you talk about Jalen Hurts, you talk about Patrick Mahomes, you talk about Sam Darnold even, you talk about Justin Jefferson, because he does so much on the field. He has the ability to just open his mouth and players are going to listen. You talk about Blake Cashman because he's the green dot, and so the guys listen to him. Like you said, Harrison Smith, but CJ Ham, man, has a different role within that team. And so you see it every once in a while on special teams. You see it every so often picking up a blitz or making a big third down catch. But, it's far and few between because the fullback is kind of becoming like a dinosaur in the NFL. Yeah. So what is it about CJ Ham, man, that continues to for players, as an organization to say, hey, man, this is a guy we want to put our money behind?
Yeah. So number one with CJ, right, coming from a smaller school, man, this guy has took every opportunity that has been presented itself and maximized them.
Yeah.
To me, that just shows, like, when you give someone an opportunity that is looking for an opportunity, and how he's maximized it and changed the culture in this locker room and inside this building, and not only the building, the community. CJ, to me, man, he could have a statue built of what he's done for the community here. Like, he's a Minnesota native. Like, man, CJ is amazing, guys. When I tell you he's next level, he is, guys. He cares about his teammates. He cares about his coaches. He cares about the staff here. CJ is great, and I see how he worked with the youth. Man, it's heartwarming.
Yeah, and you talked about the organization and the families and all the stuff, and like I said, we had Leo Cano and kwesi-adofo-mensah on the show a while back when they did their international release of and shout out to Quinn Jersvik too, because she was able to hook my wife up with the bomber jacket for the holidays, and so like those were hard to get, and she found one for my wife. She got me the Letterman that we wore on the Vikings pregame show, so I appreciate that from Quinn. And she was also on the show because as I was talking through the family engagement, Leah's like, "Oh no, you got to talk to Quinn. You got to talk to Quinn Jersvik." And then of course Kwesi's like, "Well, I got to see this before I let you guys release this." And so Kwesi watched it, he loved it, and we put it out there, and the fans loved it. And so talking about that, like Quinn to Chelsea to Leah to yourself, like, what is it? And then and again, I'm more so from the player side, because Leah and Quinn talked about the moms, the wives, the daughters, the sons, how they see them interact in the family room. But you see the players, man. You see them leaving the meetings. You get texts from them about whatever's going on.
Yeah.
What do the players see about that when they see how their families are being handled?
It gives them a sense of peace. Ron, been doing this thing for a long time, man. You're always looking for peace. You want to be able to have peace and comfortability with your families, because your wives at home with the kids, for them to be taken care of, it's going to make your day just that much more easier. You can watch film a little longer. You can do the extra necessary things to help you be elite at this game, because you're always looking for that edge to keep you in as long as you can. The average career is 2.5 years.
Correct.
So anything that can help extend that, man, is a plus. And being able to have a team like we have here to help our guys reach those goals and have those success stories is something that we don't take lightly.
And man, I'm looking forward to grabbing dinner. We just went to dinner with we've been doing a bunch of things with the Vances. Martin Vance and his wife, he's a former player now, EVP of the Vikings. So he and I, my wife and his wife, have done some escape rooms, some dinners. So we'll have to get you guys in those pressure cooker situations, because you never know a person's skill level until you get them into an escape room. I learned a lot about Martin Vance and dealing with pressure in an escape room. But that was fun. But looking from your side, man, because, and again, and I go to this because as a former player, I dealt with a little bit of depression. I dealt with like feeling segregated, I guess. It's not true segregation. I'm not talking black, white, but just, segregated from football. I hated it. Like when I left, I hated it. When my dad went through his CTE stuff, I hated it. I was like, I don't want anything to do with football. Like I wanted a job that had nothing to do with it, man. And so I went into sales with Best Buy, and I did a front office job with them at corporate. And then I started looking at Target. I'm like, I got to get away from football. Yeah. And then, man, God reached out to me and said, hey, the Minnesota Vikings, K-Fan, and Fox are about to put a deal together. You should take this call. And so I took the call, ended up being the Big Ten Network, did a couple games for them. Then fast forward, Tony Dungy reaches out, hey, do you want to coach? And I'm like, I really don't. But I was like, you know what? Yeah, I do. And so I went back, started coaching with him. And then Jim Caldwell the next year, had Reggie Wayne, Pierre Garçon. And so I started to like understand what God was doing, man. He was like, look, football might have let you down, but it didn't let me down. Like I look back and I'm like, man, I got drafted. I played 3 years. Like I did everything I could possibly do. I got hurt. There was nothing I could do about that. And so I think I did everything I could do. I had a great college career, state of Minnesota. I'm glad I'm here. But you know this, man, because you see these players.
Yeah.
It gets dark when you leave the game.
Yeah.
And so when you had a chance, man, did you ever see yourself being back as a part of an organization like this when you were done playing?
That's a great question, Ron. It actually got dark for me at a moment, man.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the role that I'm in, it resonates so much because I can drop everything and go meet my guys where they're at.
Yeah.
Because for me, the number one thing is to meet my guys where they're at. And it gives me that thought process of, the military commercial where the gunfire, people running one way, other people running that way, and then the Army guys are running to that fire, that gunshot.
Yep.
That's my job. That's what I'm here for. This is my ministry. Like I say, we have a great team that really cares about our guys, and when we have a situation that arises like that, man, we're there to handle it.
Man, that's awesome, man. And so let's get back into a little football talk, man. You play with some HOF guys. Like you play with some real ones, man. And so Jared Allen, first off, I had, he came on our show and we got a chance to talk to Jared Allen. We also saw when he got inducted to the Purple Ring of Honor, we got silenced to secrecy that he had a horse in the stadium and we weren't allowed to tell the media that there was a horse out there. And so I've seen it. So that's why the first thing I did was I asked the Vikings that I'm like, hey, is he going to bring a horse to Canton? Because I feel like he would. I feel like he's going to do something. I don't know what Canton allows. I don't know if they allow wild animals to come through the stage, but I know he's thinking of how can I top my Vikings one. And so, but you play with Jared Allen, man, the rope calf, the rope in the cow, all that stuff. What was it like, man, watching a Hall of Famer operate like that?
Man, it was amazing, Ron. Just being able to see how he went about handling his business each and every day. He's definitely a loving husband and a father. So for me, that stood out, number one, because I came into the league with kids. So, to be able to see how he navigate that was amazing. And just seeing his preparation and his work ethic. Because if you look at Jared, he's not the biggest, right?
Right.
But technically, oh, man, he's up there with the best. He's going to give you 110% effort all the time. So that's one thing I always watch with Jared. Like, control the things that you can control, and that is effort. And everything else will take care of itself.
And is there something about his game, like getting after the quarterback, the celebration even? Was there something that you was like, oh, I got to add that to my game, or I got to come up with a cool celebration? Like, did that ever cross your mind, or you just was like, hey, some people can do it, some people can't?
Well, obviously, I was the green dot at a moment in time here, so I was like, hey, I got to make sure he's lined up. Make sure he's lined up, or he's gonna be looking at me, mid play. Hey, what's the call? So,
right.
But no, I definitely, I definitely enjoyed seeing him rope the calf at the end of a sack, and I remember, can't remember that game. I think it was a Green Bay game. He had multiple sacks, and it was crazy, man. The feeling inside the Metrodome was so surreal.
Yeah, man, it gets crazy in there. And when you look at, and so going back, like you had another one because you played for the Giants. For those that don't know, you've seen Eli Manning. Like you might have had to go against him in practice, but you've seen him. But the one thing I've always, because I know Peyton because I was with the coach, but I met Eli when he was a little bit younger, wasn't who he is now. Mm-hmm. And when you look at Eli, man, like the one thing I always remember even covering the Vikings, like when we would do the Vikings games and the Giants were coming into the building, Eli didn't have the same like aura that Peyton had. He didn't have the same aura that Tom Brady had. He kind of just went about his business. Like, and so when you look at a Hall of Fame career, and I text Reggie Wayne about this because Reggie is another guy where I'm like, man, it's coming, but like who knows when? Because Terrell Owens didn't get in at the beginning because of the media. Like everybody had Fred Taylor. Like I don't understand some of these voters and what they are thinking or what their criteria is. Right. But when you see a guy like Eli Manning beat Tom Brady twice, won 2 Super Bowls, snubbed.
Yeah.
Do you think that's part of it? Like, do you think like nowadays that's why guys have social media, have NIL, have all the, because now we know Eli and Peyton are both on social media now, things they thought they never do, because that's how you make a name for yourself. Like, so do you think that's part of it? Because Eli was so like, I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to worry about the media this, like, unless it's Peyton, I'm not doing a commercial. Like, do you think that has anything to do with some of the voting?
Well, I would hate to think that it comes down to that. I really would. Because, the Hall of Fame should be out for what you've done in the game.
Correct.
Did you change the game is always a question that, I hear Prime always saying, did you change the game?
Right.
You changed the game. And I think if you did, I think you should be in there. I think it's a prestigious award. It's forever.
Yeah.
It's forever.
Yeah, they can't take it away from you.
Man, yeah, I don't think it should be taken lightly, when we're putting guys in there. But I know he will get in there one day.
Oh yeah.
And just seeing like on some of the commercials that he's on, man, super funny. I mean, he was like that in New York as well, but he just carried himself in a different way, with the media.
Right.
Obviously, the New York media is nothing to be played with. So
right.
But yeah, Eli's always had a sense of humor.
Yeah, they both have dry humor. Like that's what I would call it. Because like Peyton was funny. Like I was the grunt worker. I did the copies, and I was the assistant receivers coach. So you know how that goes. Like I'm doing the copies. I'm doing the cards for 7-on-7. I'm doing the sheets for everybody. Here's the script for the day for 3-on-4. Here's the script for 1-on-1s. Here's the script for 7-on-7. Here's the script for team. Right. And the one thing I always would laugh at would be Peyton, because he would look at the script, look at the coverage.
Yeah.
And then he would always have some type of joke, whether it was like, I have no, like it was weird. Like I don't even want to say the joke because people were like, that's not funny. But like as a defensive guy, like Peyton would always be like, watch this. I'm gonna find a way to make the defensive coordinator throw his clipboard. And he would just do something that had nothing to do with the coverage, knowing he knew the coverage and he could beat it.
Right.
And the coordinator would get so pissed because he's like, why do y'all keep doing, like, stop doing that. Like, stop. Like, if you don't stop doing that, I'm a blitz.
Yeah.
And so, and so that's what I always loved about Peyton. Also, Peyton had like a memory that I've never seen before in my life. Like I did a clip for him, 404 plays. It took me at least 3 weeks. He wanted he wanted these specific plays, like 404. I never forget that number.
Right.
One play had an interception and he was mad about it. And then he got mad, but then in the meeting he got mad. Then Reggie Wayne came up, was like, you can't let him talk to you like that. And he wasn't talking to me because Peyton came and apologized. Yeah. He was like, man, I wasn't talking to you, man. The video guys know certain plays don't need to be on the back then it was X's and O's. I don't know what they use now. But he was like, certain plays don't need to be on there, man, because we never gonna run that again. I told them it sucks and I don't ever want to see it again. And he's like, it's not your fault. You just pulled the play and they happen to still be in there. Right. And I'll never forget, it was Jacksonville. They ran double curls. And instead of running flats, they said, let's run curls with seams. Uh-huh. And Payne's like, that's stupid because the linebacker chasing the seam is just going to fall off on the curl. Yep. And that's what happened. Like Jacksonville picked it off. That was like the one time he ran that play, never ran it again. Right. He's like, you cannot run seams and curls because you're running people into each other. And so it was just long. It's funny. I'll never forget that. But I remember him and Eli had the same dry humor that nobody got. And you're right, man. I hope the voters don't do that. But we know Terrell Owens was snubbed because of his antics off the field. And, Fred Taylor was never a media guy. He didn't talk to the media, do interviews. He wasn't going to, go to all the stuff they wanted to go to. So we know that's part of it. Right. Sterling Sharp, for whatever reason, like, he only played 7 years and he didn't do this. And it's like, he still was the best. Yeah. And so finally, I think they're starting to let that go, that antiquated thought process that you got to play 10 to 15 years. You got to win a Super Bowl. Like, I think they're throwing that out the door now and starting to just say, who was, like you said, who changed the game?
Yeah.
Sterling Sharp changed the game. He showed the world you can throw the ball a lot. He showed the world big receivers can play receiver, not just tight end. Like there was so much he changed with the game. And so you're right on that. But, getting away from football a little bit, man, like back to the main thing. So people know why this Ron Johnson is Jasper Brinkley before we get out of here. But our wives both went to the Olympics. Your wife was she a multiple or was she just an 08 too?
12.
So she was London. 8 and 12.
Yep. London.
Yep.
She got a bronze in London. So
okay. So and my wife did the 08, but she was on the circuit from like 04 to I think 09, 10. So that's somehow they ran into each other through the Olympics training stuff, the Olympics training center. And they were, quote unquote, she's like, yeah, that's my friend from the Olympics. And you know how it is. There's certain people you just meet working out and you click better with that person than other people.
Oh, yeah.
And and so as we're talking about that, she's like, you know what, you gotta make sure you introduce yourself to my friend and don't be rude. Because that's what she's trying to say. She's like, at games, I'm not rude. It's just, how it is. Game day, you're like headset on. You're like trying to make sure you get the stuff you're supposed to get. You're trying to make sure you know who's in the game, who's not in the game. And so I'm just going. But I did make when I first saw her on the sideline, I'm like, I think that's her because I saw the necklace. And so then I made sure to do that. And so, but man, like we saw some stuff on ESPN about your wife, man. And again, talking about going through stuff, man, like it's one thing that I always look at. And I love Ryan Clark's, pivot. When did you pivot? When did you have to turn? What is the world's review of that? Or what's been like the relationship of friendships now with your wife and everything that's come out about her?
Yeah, I think it's been powerful, Ron. Some people haven't had the, I don't want to say courage, they just haven't felt comfortable about sharing their stories like that. But for her to be able to share her story, it gave them a little nudge to be able to, it's okay to share yours. Obviously when there's great space too, in mental health, obviously, stuff like that, it eats away at you from the inside.
Right.
So with her being able to share her story, I think it speaks volume, because a lot of people deal with it, believe it or not, that I really didn't know. I was kind of naive to it in a sense until I saw her ESPN 30 for 30.
Yeah.
E360, I'm sorry. So, man, it just brought so much, shedded so much light on the situation. And knowing all of that, man, I got my hands wrapped around her, and man, I'm just protective of my girl now, man. So.
Yeah, no, you have to be, man. And so that's what I think, like for most men, and we'll have to chat about that later, but most men don't know how to be vulnerable. And so it's a thing that like they don't teach us as boys. Girls are taught. If something's hurt, tell. If you don't feel good, tell us. For boys, it's like, oh man, right, rub some dirt on it, get back out there. You broke your hand, get back out there, you'll be fine. And I think like that's why a lot of football players end up in dark places, because they get disconnected. Like you have a schedule every day and then you don't. And it's like, well, what do I do with this schedule? How do I navigate this schedule? How do I navigate this change? And guys don't know how to do it, man. So I'm glad you're in the role you're in, man, because I think you're going to be a huge change agent, I want to call it, for that space of mental health and allowing players to open up, man. And just like I told Les Pico, man, there's anything I can do to tell my story with the players, because I finally did it with my dad. He did a story right before he died. And I'll have to tell you this off air, but so it was fun to kind of understand that side of it and deal with some of my own pain, some of my own anguish, because I think it was bothering me in my marriage, to be honest. Like I was treating my wife like my mom, and I was making my wife like, I don't want you to do this because my mom did it. I don't want you, and it's like, I can't live that way. And so I'm glad you guys are able to go through that, man, because I think that makes a marriage stronger, healthier. Like when you can go through stuff and overcome it, be on the same page with stuff emotionally, mentally, everything, man. So, but I'm Ron Johnson. That's Jasper Brinkley for hanging around Johnson segment. Coming up next, we got the Daily 3. And before we jump into that, Jasper, man, seriously, man, I want to thank you for joining me, man. This was it was an honor. We got to do this again at some point in the off season. Appreciate you joining me on the Ron Johnson Show. But we'll be back with the Daily 3 after a word from our sponsors. And now it's time for the Daily 3, Sam. And again, Jasper Brinkley was great. I love the stories. I hope everybody enjoyed them. But the Harrison Smith one came out of left field. When he said that, I was like, wait, explain that a little bit more. Because I was like, I had never heard that one. So we gotta make sure we get that on socials and tag Percy and Harry and see if any of them respond. But yeah, let's get to the Daily 3. It's 3 questions. It's been about a minute each day. Take it away.
All right, let's go back to Saturday night. Kevin O'Connell named NFL Coach of the Year, beating out Dan Campbell and Dan Quinn. And they showed the results of the vote. Pretty close vote over Dan Campbell. Do you think that Kevin O'Connell was the rightful winner, Ron Johnson?
Yeah, because Dan Campbell, we expected him to do that. Nobody expected Kevin O'Connell, and that's what it is. Because we already know, like your boy Peter Bukowski, DVOA and over expected, production over expectation. Kevin O'Connell blew the doors off with that. His expectation was 7 to 8 wins. Some people, I mean, we saw the jokes the Vikings sent that social media team that made, that said they weren't going to win anything. That's the thing. That's the thing. Nobody expected them to win. Nobody expected Sam Darnold to be a Pro Bowler. That goes to Kevin O'Connell. So coaching, 1, is about wins. 2, it's beating the person, because everybody keeps saying, not everybody, like 4 people from the Lions keep saying, Dan Campbell beat Kevin O'Connell. He was supposed to. You were supposed to. That's like Mike Tyson walking into the ring with anybody. He's supposed to win that fight. If he loses the fight, then we're like, whoa, you just bit his ear off. That's why it's a big deal. But other than that, we expected Kevin O'Connell to lose to Dan Campbell. But when it comes to getting a team pointing in the right direction, I'd say the Commanders, that was close with Dan Quinn, but I don't think anybody really wanted to vote for him. But Dan Quinn did it with a rookie quarterback. You can give him that, but also it's a first-round pick quarterback. Now, Sam Darnold was a first-round pick with the Jets. It didn't work out, so I see both sides of this. But Kevin O'Connell, over expectation, huge. That's why he won. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree. All very deserving. Kevin O'Connell probably had the most impressive argument because he did it with Sam Darnold.
Correct.
Dan Campbell's argument was he did it with injuries. And Dan Quinn's argument was he did it with a rookie quarterback, and he just changed the culture of a franchise. They all had good cases. I think
all have fair arguments.
Was the most convincing.
All have fair arguments. Yep.
Absolutely. Alex Rodriguez and Marc Lore are on track to be the Timberwolves owners. 11 months of drama, Ron Johnson. I checked the dates. Back last March is when this all came down. Glenn Taylor tried to kill the deal. They go to arbitration. The arbitration took 3 months longer than it should have, but yesterday they announced Alex Rodriguez, Marc Lore won the ruling, and now all they have to do is get approved by the NBA Board of Governors to be the new owners. Was this a positive development for the Wolves?
Yes, it was. I think so. I think it's time to move on from Glenn Taylor. There's so much bad blood. I think, honestly, once Glenn Taylor is officially out, I could see Kevin Garnett being super petty and showing up. I think that's going to be the nail in the coffin to kind of nail the Glenn Taylor era and move into the new era of Alex Rodriguez and friends. All the celebrities he knows, all the fun people he knows that want to come to games. All his former teammates. You got other celebrities. Maybe J-Lo's back on the market. Maybe she shows back up. You just never know, because maybe that was part of it. She's like, you don't want the team anymore? Okay, I'm out of here, buddy. And now he's back. So it's like, oh, babe, I want to be courtside. And so, that it's so much to that when you think about the aura. And I think Kevin Garnett is the ultimate petty player in this, where him and Paul Pierce can show up, do their little podcast here. He comes out to a game, whether it's a play, maybe he's waiting for the playoffs again this year, or just a game. The minute the sale is done, national media, Kevin Garnett's here because Glenn Taylor's finally out. I think that's the key to this.
Yeah, this is going to help repair the KG relationship. And Glenn really messed this up from a legacy standpoint. If he wanted to have any goodwill with this fan base, have a nice send-off, maybe even get a round of applause on the way out the door, he killed it. He squashed it. He tried to repossess the team. He had no right to do so. The arbitration kind of clears it up that, Glenn was being a weasel here. Yep. So now his legacy is shot. I don't think anybody's going to be, I wouldn't set foot in Target Center again if I'm Glenn Taylor. So it's really bungled by Glenn, and I think this is the rightful outcome. And then lastly, Ron, Timberwolves in 7th place in the West right now. They fell last night to Cleveland, who's the class of the NBA, 128-107. Wolves also have the Thunder coming up 3 times in the next couple of weeks. So we're going to learn a lot about how the Wolves stack up with the league's heavyweights. How do you feel or where do you think the Wolves are at the exact 2/3 point of the season, 54 games in?
So, and when is the All-Star game? When's the All-Star break?
All-Star game is coming up. So the Wolves have 2 more games before the break. So the game is probably coming up. Is it Saturday? I want to say it's Saturday.
Is it Saturday? Is All-Star game Saturday?
Or is it the following Saturday?
Maybe, I don't know. I've like it's so different now. Like I have it because I know they changed the rules again. They're like, oh, new format, blah. But anyway, so
Sunday. I'm sorry, Sunday coming up.
Okay, that's what I thought because I know we're gonna
Yeah.
like while we're out of town, they usually do like I know that the place we stay has like a Super Bowl party, and then I know they have like a little bit of an All-Star, not as big. All-Star game's not as big. You know, Super Bowl's huge. All-Star game's more of like, hey, we're gonna have the game on if anybody wants to sit down there. The American version of it. So you know, we might check it out a little bit, but I'm not like appointment TV. Like I'm not sitting down. I think we're gonna go to like this pizza place that has like a sports bar in Mexico. So we're not like tuned in, like, oh, I gotta see this, but definitely gonna, you know, keep an eye on it a little bit. But I do want to see the 3-point contest and stuff. But with the way the Timberwolves are sitting, here's the thing. I think the Mavs are gonna fall a little bit further. I don't know how far though. Who knows? Kyrie might go Super Saiyan. Anthony Davis is hurt, which is crazy. Kings, I thought would be better. Warriors look old. Suns look done. Spurs, I don't know what's going on with them. I thought they would be better. And then, so you look at the teams below them. That's the thing. The teams in front of them are right there. Like the Clippers are right there. And that's the key. Is like they can be 6 in a minute. And then if you're 6, you're playing the Nuggets, which I think they'd be fine. If you somehow get to 5, you're playing the Lakers, which I think they'd be fine. And so when you think about this team, I think they are a playoff team. I think they're fine. Like I said, it's like you hear, okay, they're back, and then the losses start to come. You know, it's just figuring out that what are we? We're not the Karl-Anthony Towns Timberwolves anymore. We're a new team, new movements, new body of offense. Like we got to go through Anthony Edwards, like Michael Jordan. You know, I think Julius Randle needs to take like a Horace Grant route. I don't know if you remember Horace Grant. Sam, I don't know if you were too young to remember Horace Grant, how he played. Not Scottie Pippen. I think Nas Reed is more suited to be a Scottie Pippen on his team, the way he's been playing. But Horace Grant was 100% consistent with rebounds, boxing out, posting up. And I feel like if Julius Randle could get away from the I need to handle the ball and just be a bully and save some energy, I think they could be a better team. But I don't know if the team can get them to do that. And that's the thing. So I'm not overly concerned about them not making the playoffs. But the problem is when you look at if they are in the play-in, if it's the Mavs, Kings, Warriors, those are dangerous teams in a play-in game.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta be 6. You got to try to be 6. And I think they can be. All the teams chasing the Wolves, it's interesting. They all made a big move, right? Spurs made a big move. The Warriors made a big move. The Kings sort of sold. They made a big move to trade away De'Aaron Fox. Then the Mavericks made a big move. Everybody's kind of retooled their team. And I wonder if it's going to take a minute for those new groups to gel together. Right. And the Wolves have some continuity. I mean, they've kind of got this group. They've started to figure it out. They've got the young guys involved now, Dillingham, Jalen Clark. So I do like their trajectory. If you beat the Clippers and are 6, you're sitting in a good spot, and then it'll be a fun playoff series. And I think you can win. Other than the Thunder, I think everyone in this conference is beatable. The Thunder are in a class of their own, and the Wolves play them like 3 times, like I said, in the next 2 weeks. So we'll find out kind of where they sit.
Yep, they are. Well, that'll do us for today. I'm Ron Johnson. That's Sam Extra. I want to thank you guys for watching and joining. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. And also, the Minnesota Football Party, people. 5 days a week, you can find our content on YouTube. That's go to YouTube, search Locked On Sports Minnesota, subscribe, and you'll get all of our shows. I want to thank you guys. Thank you to Jasper Brinkley for joining us, and have a great day, people.